Before we get the video started, I just want to let you guys know that the Huawei 25% cashback is going to be ending at the end of the month, so make sure that you are using it now, because next month, from what I'm being told, it's going to go back down to only 10%, which is still better than zero, but it's definitely not 25. So make sure that you're using that right now. And also remember that the top new users until the end of the month are going to be eligible to receive a tablet. So this is the time to do it. Make sure that you use it before it runs out. What is going on, people? Today we're going to be talking about battalions and how I set mine up. Now you can go ahead and copy the way that I have it set up, or you can change some things. It's really up to you, and also depending on how many battalions you have. But first of all, how do you get battalions, or how do you get more battalions? Well, you got to research them, and there's two places that you can get them. All right, it is upgrade military. Now it is near the end of the tree, so it's not the easiest thing to come across, but there it is, central command. You can get 5 from this tree right here, but like I mentioned, it is near the end of the tree, so it's not the easiest thing to get. The other one would be on the new tree, which is the gear tree, and it's right here, right at the beginning of the tree. So it's probably a little easier to get to if you haven't started with the other tree, right here. So you get 10 in total. Now, how do you set them up? Here's the way that I have mine set up. Now, of course, like I mentioned, you can copy it. You can get an idea from it, however you want to go about it. Let me go ahead and show you exactly how I have mine set up. Now, my first 3 are probably the most important. Infantry, cavalry, range. These are your solo blasts. This is the way that I have mine set up. Now, mind you, I do have T5, T4, T2. You can switch it up however you want. This is the number that I have: 125,000 T5, 220,000 T4, and then about 30k T2. Now, if you don't want the T2 and you just want like T4, T5, you can go something like this. You can actually add more T5, less T4, as long as you have a 60-40 split. So for instance, out of 200k, you can go 120k T5, 80k T4, and your T5 will only be wounded. So I guess it depends on your preference, how much T5 you want to include, and also how much Lunite you have. But just to give you an idea, the main things though that you want to make sure of is that you have 60% T5, unless you just don't care about losing T5 on a solo attack instead of wounded. Then at that point you can just do 375k T5, because it doesn't matter. But yeah, that's what I would suggest: 60% T5, 40% T4 / T2, up to your discretion. One thing that I will point out is to always make sure, if it's infantry, you have 4 range, 4 cavs, and then the same the other way. If it's range, you have 4 infantry and cav, etc. That way you're manipulating how you can attack. And by that I mean, if you're going to be sending range, you don't want to go in a range phalanx with just range, because not only are they going to be targeted much easier and quicker, you're not going to be taking advantage of how the game actually works when you're attacking. So if you're attacking range, right, and the reason you include the 4 infantry and the 4 cavs in this example that I'm giving you is the range is going to be in the back, meaning that they're going to be harder to get to for the enemy army, and they will have to go through those 4 troops of each one. So this is what ends up happening. Those 4 infantry troops will be right here. Each troop will take up a squad, and each 4 troop of the cavs will take up one of these squads right here. So before the enemy army can even touch your range, they have to spend time attacking 4 troops, 4 troops, 4 troops, and then they finally get to your army. So by that time, your actual range units would have hit their actual army 2 or 3 times. So you're gaming the system in that way. So you should always have those extra quote-unquote fluff troops, and always do it in the right phalanx, because you can have the fluff troops, but if you don't have the right phalanx, then it's kind of worthless. I do have a video specifically on how to go about that phalanx, talking about squats and all of that, so definitely look into that if you're not too sure about how all of that works. But that's essentially how I have my infantry, cavalry, and range tree set up. This is the infantry one. This is the cavalry one. And like I mentioned, I have T5, but for instance, if you don't have T5, you can kind of do the same with T4 and T2, or if you're T3 even, You can do T3 T2 or T3 T1, whatever it is you have. Just make sure that your highest tier troop is 60% if you care about losing too many in a solo attack, etc. If you don't, then just go 100%. Just make sure that you have those 4 extra troops. Also, another thing to note is the ballistas. It is always valuable to send siege on a solo hit, just because you never know. And the reason I opt for 4 ballistas instead of something higher like T4, etc., is because they will never slow down your march. Okay, you guys know that siege is the slowest walking troop, but what you may not know is that whether it's T1 siege or T5 siege, they're gonna do the same job. They're just there to hopefully save your leader, walk back, those 4 troops that walk back, etc. But the higher the tier of siege doesn't mean that you have a higher chance. The only thing that it does, though, like if you send T5 with T5 siege, what it will do is it'll slow down your march, which you definitely don't want. The good thing about T1 siege, though, is that it will slow down no march. It will never slow down your march, and it'll still act as a siege, quote unquote, hopeful safety blanket to maybe walk back from a solo attack gone wrong. So that's why I include the ballistas instead of like higher tier ones, like T5, T4, etc. So just something to note. Here is my range one as well. But like I said, range, cav, infantry, they're pretty much the same. And I would say that these are the 3 most important ones. After that, it gets a little dicey. Now, my 5th one is fort. And what I mean by fort is pretty much just an even mixed set. The same principle really stays here. I do have my ballistas in there. And I have T5, I have T4. I do not have any T2 because you don't really want to do that in a fort. This is mainly for forts. If you want to hold a fort or if you're trying to fill a fort quickly that with mix, this is the way that you would want to go. Again, though, if you don't have T5 and you got like T4, in this case, you want to go 50-50 on all of them. So if you don't have the T5, you would probably want to go like 125 K on each T4 and then just take out a couple of troops and add the 4 ballistas. Always have the ballistas because you just never know, and it literally costs you nothing. So that's the way that I set up the fort one. That's kind of like just kind of to be there. And then this one I kind of have messed up because my grunts have been pyrus a lot. I get pyrus a lot, so the numbers aren't right. But this, the Phalanx Check, it's basically to check what phalanx the enemy is on. But this one specifically is if they do not have an anti-scout. So the way that this would usually go is I will have 90,000 fire trebuchet going in there with just a bunch of siege heroes, not your actual leader. And then I will have a mix of gladiators and grunts because I just don't have enough grunts. The grunts would be much higher at this point because they're the only ones that would be dying. 60-40 split again. And then the ballistas just to fill out. And that way my higher tier fire trebuchets don't actually die. It's just the ballistas dying, which again, ballistas, very valuable to have once again. I'm pretty sure I already did a video on this one though. I have not made a video on phalanx checking when an enemy has anti-scout, which we're going to get to right here. So we got through my first 5. Those are the first 5 that I have. Now with the new research, I was able to actually make 5 more. And this is what I opted to do. Number 6, I call farm. If you guys ever have been just attacking things randomly, dead castles, etc., you know that a bunch of times you're just sending T2 out there. So I named this farm. And essentially what this is just 200k reptilian riders. That's it. They're quick. They get the job done, they get in and out, and that's it. You don't have to keep going and blah, blah, blah. I just got to click on 6, send that out. Click on 6, send that out. Click on 6, send that out. So it's an easy and effective way to just go around attacking dead castles without wasting a bunch of time. So that's what I opted for on this one. Very simple, just 200k reptilian riders. That's it. Next, the next 3 are the ones that are specifically made for checking phalanx of somebody that has anti-scout. Now, I will be making a video on that. I know I said that before, but I will actually be doing it. Phalanx inf, phalanx range, phalanx cav. What this means is, when you go ahead and take a look at this, This is specifically set up to where I attack. The first thing I gotta do though is I use this one to knock down their wall, and then I add a bit of siege here just in case they have a little bit of wall left. But essentially what this is going to do is this is set up to where I'm attacking with T4, but the only thing that is going to be dying is my my lower tier troops, my gladiators for instance, and my fire trebuchets and ballistas are also going to be split. Again, 60-40, very important to remember. 60% goes into infirmary, the other 40 are dead, so that's why the 40% you want to have the lower tier troops, so you cut the amount of losses that you have. But this, you attack with this first, right? Essentially, this is how it works. You attack with this first. The first thing that you need to see is how much might they dropped. So just as an example, right? Let's say that you knock down the wall and now they have anti, you don't know what they have in front of them. You send this in first. And let's just say, I don't know, for the sake of argument, that they drop 20,000 might, right? So now you go ahead and you go to Phalanx range. And this is going to be the same thing. You're just pretty much, this one doesn't have as much siege because their wall should be down at this point. So let's say that they drop 20,000 might with the first infantry one, right? Now with this one, they drop almost like 80,000 might. That's already telling you something. That way, hold on. I hit with infantry, they drop 20,000. Now I'm hitting with range, they're dropping 80,000. Okay. And then last but not least, you go cavalry, which is the same idea, same numbers. And then with this one, you only drop about 35,000 from them. Now, what exactly does that tell you? It basically tells you, even though they have anti-scout, when you hit with infantry, they dropped not much. When you hit with range, they dropped a hell of a lot more. And then when you hit with cavalry, they drop more than infantry, but definitely not as much as range. So what this tells you is that they're in a cavalry formation. Now, this is one of the easiest way to check if they have anti-scout, to check their formation. But again, it is not for everybody because you do have quite a bit to heal, like the T4, etc. But it is a very good way to phalanx check somebody. And that's why I have it set as a battalion. That way I can do it quicker. You go in there, they have anti-scout. You go, boom, phalanx check when I get their numbers right again, right? Boom, you break their wall. Then after that, you go phalanx infantry, take a note of their might. Phalanx rage, take a note of their might. Phalanx cav, take a note of their might. And then match it up and see where they drop the most. And that will tell you their formation. So it's very important to have. If it's something that you would do periodically. If you never phalanx check, then I guess you can just do whatever else you want. And then the last one, it's kind of like my floater, the one that I changed the most, because I call it fill. Now, essentially what this is, right? At the moment, I have it at 60-40. 60% T5, 40% T4 infantry. Now, this I set up when we were doing Baron. And the reason I set it up this way is because we were pretty much always rallying infantry. And all I needed to do was click number 10, boom, infantry, and it was gone. I didn't have to like click on anything, put a specific number, blah, blah, blah. And since I was sending 100k all the time, it was much easier to just set this one up and then click the button every time. Now, if it's something else, like maybe you're rallying range all the time, then you just set it up as range. And if you're sending 200k instead of 100k, then you would put 120k T5 and then 80k T4. You get the point, right? If it's a rally that you're just always doing, always, whether it's like specifically in Paladin, Baron, Emperor, etc. And if it's always the same troops, then that's the way that I would have it. Now, I will say this. If you are not somebody that's going to be phalanx checking anybody, instead of having fill one, I would maybe have all three. One for infantry, one for cav, and one for range. Just as an FYI. But yeah, outside of that, I mean, I feel like heroes and familiars, those are pretty self-explanatory. If you go infantry, you want to make sure that you use at least 4 infantry heroes. If you're using an army hero, then that's fine, as long as you have 4 of the heroes of whatever blast you're sending. Please don't use Trickster. And then that's pretty much it. I mean, if there's anything else that you guys have a question on, for sure leave it in the comment section. And yeah, I'll see if I can answer it if I didn't already cover it. But yeah, appreciate you guys for watching, and until later.